Chapter 12. You okay? Ruby has been staring at her phone screen for 20 minutes. It is the first message she has received from Ash in 3 days. 3 days. It's been 3 whole days since she found Jane's body. Jane. That's what the media call the girl. Me. Now. Jane Doe. An unidentified white female found murdered in Riverside Park. Blonde. Thought to be aged between 15 and 24 years old. 5 feet tall. 125 pounds. A scatter of freckles across her nose. No identifying marks, no tattoos, no major dental work done. She looks like no one and everyone, and they have named her Jane. The girl is now Jane. Police say they're investigating every single tip phoned in. They hold press conference, their face like stones standing at podiums. They warn women to be careful to avoid situations. News stories lead with vicious attack and brutal slaying. The growing consensus is that this was a random attack, which puts my murder on the tip of all the tongues up here where it happened. That the whole city is spooked. Who is she? People ask. And how could this have happened? Nobody young and pretty gets murdered in New York City these days. Correction, nobody young and pretty gets raped and murdered in New York City these days. Quotes from police source on the exact nature of the assault dominates the story in the tabloid papers. It makes Ruby feel sick to her stomach. Others delight in it. They crawl right into the muck. Is Ruby okay then? No, like I said, she was not chosen. She has not chosen the easy path here. She could have let me go already, turned me over to the people whose job it is to think about me instead. Her need to know who I am has come on like a fever. After her interview with Detective O'Brien, she has stayed holed up inside her room, moving beyond the bed and the bathroom, as if taking a third or fourth shower might cool her down. It never does, so she crawls back under the sheets, half wet, stares at the ceiling until she switches on her laptop again, goes back to her search for fresh headlines and threads of new information about the investigation. The city honks and buzzes outside her window. Beyond her closed blinds, there are millions of people going about their days and their nights, doing the things they always do, good or bad or both. But Ruby wants to shut all that living out, now that she feels closer to the dead. Cassie says she should come home, says she's right to question Ruby's safety and the wisdom of her travelling alone, away from a laptop. There is only one safe place Ruby can think of. The precinct is on a regular residential street decorated with thin trunk trees. Spears of metal make the first floor windows of the street's ornate row houses look like little jail cells, but for the most part the location feels innocuous, homely, and Ruby would not have guessed there was a police station nestled in the neighbourhood. When she'd walked here for her formal interview, she'd followed the blue dot on her phone, and she was confused when she arrived, thinking this is a street where people should be making dinner and playing with children, not investigating robberies and assault and all the hidden broken things. But then again, so much happens behind closed doors. Perhaps, she reasoned, it made sense for the police to stop themselves in amongst all that domesticity, amongst the kitchens and lounge rooms and curtains being closed around everyday life. Best to keep the police close to home. Maybe 72 hours after my murder, on a grey sky morning, Ruby finds herself returning to the precinct. She walks past the building a dozen times, but she never goes up to the entrance. Cannot bring herself to do more than hover across the street. It is enough for her to stare at the front doors, to know there are people like Detective O'Brien and Officer Jennings, that kind policewoman, working away inside, solving crime, helping people, keeping them safe. Just a few days ago she thought this is how people go crazy. Now she understands she has no idea back then what it means to need answers no one can give you. Her body was found by a jogger. Such a famous line. Two anonymous women connected by just 7 words. Just how close had they come to each other that morning? Close enough to change roles, play each other's parts. The victim is estimated to be in her mid-30s. She's 5.7 feet, 155 pounds. She has brown hair and brown eyes. She has a tattoo of a heart on her right wrist. Was Ruby's life decided in the time it took to put on her running shoes? Had she arrived in the park just a few minutes earlier, might she have been the one in danger? How close do we all come? As she stands across from the precinct, Ruby thinks about Detective O'Brien. By now she has seen him many times on the news, read every single article about him she could find. It was no surprise to discover he's famous in his field, a respected, much decorated investigator known for solving many of the area's high-profile cases, the grim stuff, the murders of women and children cases Ruby skipped over at first, but often returned to in the dark, pressing her tongue against the exposed nerve of violence when she could not sleep. She wonders how much more Detective O'Brien knows about this particular murder than what had been shared with the police so far. A girl was assaulted, strangled, a seemingly random attack. The perpetrator's DNA was found under the victim's fingernails and other places Ruby does not like to think about. This is all common knowledge now. But what new secret has the girl's body offered up in the medical examiners and photographers and crime scene investigators? 3 days on, obviously not enough to give away her identity. Posters with a detailed sketch at their centre have now gone up around Riverside. Do you know this woman? A forensic artist has approximated my face, painted a small smile on my lips, coloured right up the edges of me. It could almost, but the artist has softened my expression, widened my eyes. I look like a girl who knows nothing of the world. Who is going to recognise that? There must be more than he knows. Ruby thinks of O'Brien today. She can almost see him shifting all of the different pieces from hand to hand, rubbing the truth between his fingertips until it sparks an odd image, and when she looks down, Ruby sees that she herself is pressing thumb to forefinger, a new and nervous twitch. Does he know who you are, Jane? Ruby doesn't mean to say this sentence out loud, but the words slip from her mouth just as Officer Jennings quietly comes up beside her. She jumps, their faces mirroring surprise and recognition. He thinks Ruby looks nicer in the light, sexy even, then scolds himself for being such an inappropriate thought. Smith sent him outside. Said the Australian woman from the Riverside case had been standing out front of the building all morning, and he should probably go see if she was okay. Ah, Ruby. She nods and ducks her head at the same time, embarrassed. Jennings is looking at her with concern, and she remembers his softness down by the river, the way he breathed out slowly when she pointed to the body. Officer Smith had wrapped the blanket around her, squeezed her shoulders, but it was Jennings who looked like he wanted to cry. Hi, Officer Jennings, Ruby was saying. Says finally, willing the flush in her cheeks to settle. I was just walking past, and I was wondering if there was any breakthroughs or, leads in the case. While she is talking, Jennings keeps glancing back at the precinct doors, his discomfort clear. He should have made Smith do this part. His partner is far better with the traumatized ones. She somehow knows what to say, how to find the balance between professional distance and small comfort. He clears his throat, wishing he'd pay more attention to how Smith does it, mistaking this unease for censure. Ruby's blush deepens. Sir, I do mean to be a bother. I shouldn't even be here. And I know I have no right to ask questions. It's just I can't seem to stop thinking about her. I'm going a bit crazy, I think. With this somewhat alarming admission, Jennings blinks through his nervousness, remembers something from his training and takes a step closer. It's okay, Ruby. Did you want to come inside and talk? Maybe you remember something. Detective Brian is further uptown today, but I could. He trails off as Ruby shakes her head, tears pooling, then spilling down her cheeks. At the sight of her tears, Jennings reaches over and awkwardly pats Ruby's arm, then coughs. His own cheeks are burning now. Will he ever get used to the crying? Think, Jennings, think. Ruby, I can get you some phone numbers. There are people, experts in this kind of thing, who can help you. It's pretty normal to feel upset after what you went through. Witnessing a crime can be traumatic, and lots of people say talking about it helps so you don't, get stuck. Mortified that she's crying again, wanting nothing more than to get away from this awkward conversation as quickly as possible. Ruby nods as Jennings' suggestion wipes away her tears with the back of her hand, giving himself a mental tick for getting it right this time. The young officer practically runs across the street back to the emotional safety of the station. Returning a few minutes later, he hands Ruby 3 or 4 glossy pamphlets and feels even better when she rewards him with a half smile. The booklets he has picked for her all have covers showing a diverse cast of characters talking on the phone or walking together, holding hands. Everyone has a smile on their face despite the words jumping off the paper. Trauma, victim, violence, grief. Is this supposed to be her world, her people now? Ruby doesn't feel like smiling. Still, the young officer is clearly pleased with himself. And Ruby can only thank him for trying. I'll have a read over these for sure, to make sure I don't. She throws a hand about, get stuck. I appreciate this, Officer Jennings. Really, thank you. Don't mention it, Ruby. You've been through a lot. It's good to deal, right? And come by if you want to talk some more, okay? You're welcome anytime. An old closing, more to do with her smile than anything else. They both recognize this, and Jennings has the sense to start backing away. Officer Jennings. He has already crossed the street when Ruby yelps out his name, startling them both. He stops. Ruby takes a deep breath. Where is she? Can you tell me where Jane is? Where Jane is? Jennings repeats her question, confused. Yes, I mean the girl Jane Doe. Where do you take? Ruby swallows. The bodies you find. Ah, right, I get you. Jennings wonders why he has suddenly started to perspire. She'll be down at First Avenue, I reckon. First Avenue? Yeah, at the morgue down there. That's where she would be. They'll be having to ID her. If no one comes forward to claim her, they'll keep her down there for a while, most likely. And then Ruby needs to know what happened if nobody claims the body. Jennings rubs the back of his neck, feels a trickle of sweat under her fingertips. He hates thinking about this part. Never gets used to it. The idea of all those cadavers lined up, emptied of organs, lips sewn shut. The ugly ending doesn't feel right for a girl as lovely as the one she found by the river. He feels a saddened desire to protect Ruby from what he knows. It's the least he can do for her. You know what, hun? Odds are we'll find out who she is real soon. It's nearly always happens that way, so don't you worry about it. Jennings gives him what he hopes is a reassuring smile, and then he is gone. The doors of the precinct closing behind his back, and Ruby is left standing on the street, smiling, faces staring up at her from the brochure in her hands. She unfolds the top one, but the print blurs because she's crying again. That drops onto the page. You okay? Ash couldn't even be bothered typing out a full sentence. What room did that leave her to answer? How could she fit in all the things that made her not okay? She thinks again of the line she read in so many newspaper reports. Her body was discovered by a jogger. Why did they never say what happened to the jogger after that? Someone organises a candidate vigil at Riverside Park. News of the intended gathering is shared locally, and on Sunday night, 4 days after the murder, around 300 people make their way down to the muddy fields near the pier. The mourners are mostly from the neighbourhood, but some women come from across town, from their own dark places, called forth to memorialise one of their irks, one who couldn't make it home. The crowd is punctured by these survivors, their pain red-tipped fierce, as the faithful from different denominations help forth. One grasps at comfort after another offered into the night. Candles quiver, wave, and when the talking stops, someone steps forward and softly sings Hallelujah into the silent congregation, her head bowed down. From a distance, 300 candles held high is a beautiful thing to see. A glow of stars drawn down into a people's hands. Faces are soft, warm as people lean one lit candle into the wick of another, connecting each new flame until the field flickers, until the crowd appears to breathe light, a visible exhale of grief and prayer. There is no need to be spoken, but I am recognized by each of the women present, clasping around their lifted hands. Heavy on their hearts, I am their fears and their lucky escape, their anger and their weariness. I am their caution and their yesterdays, the shadow version of themselves, all those nights they have spent looking over shoulders or twining keys between fingers. A man speaks to the crowd, enters his gender to do better. People clap, cheer, but it is the silence of the woman that binds up the candlelight, sends us skyward, a flare in search of every lost sister, so that when the man's passion is spent, it is the quiet rage of women that lingers, can be seen glittering from above, long after all the little fires that have been extinguished and the mourners have moved on. Ruby does not attend the vigil. She sits alone in her room, just a few city blocks from the park. She has lit her own candle here, a single flame weaving, pulsing in the dark. Cross-legged on the bed, drinking lukewarm vodka, she stares at this candle and feels nothing. Sorrow, she is learning, can be quiet as a whisper when it wants to be, whether it all rolls inside her, whether the pain spills out like a swollen river breaching its banks, or the waters go still and she floats upon the surface, numbed. It is all the same feeling in the end, one of utter helplessness. Knowing so little is in your control, knowing you cannot claw your way back to the ignorance of safety. Sometimes, these past few days, she has raged against this loss. Tonight she grieves. She is alone in a lonely city, and nearly as deep as her sorrow for an unnamed dead girl is this wretched thought: should anything happen to her in New York, she herself might end up unclaimed as one of the city's morgues, because no one will have noticed she is gone. The morning of the vigil, Ruby rakes with a vodka thick head, remembers blowing out the candle, can recall getting out of bed to lie down on the cool of the bathroom tiles, and after the room starts to spin, a dim recollection to her waking, shivering on the floor, a coarse towel wrapped around her shoulders, self-care of the drunken kind. She thinks with a sigh, the towel now tangled under the bed covers. She was not in a deep enough sleep to dream, but time has passed. It is now 6:30 in the morning. She has managed to shut down the night at least. Padding to the bathroom, her head aching, Ruby's stomach suddenly lurches. A memory from last night dislodged makes its way to the surface. After the candles before the tiles, she was righteous, angry, pain. Ruby sees herself with the phone in her hand, bringing out Ash's name, the punctual keys, a furious list of sins, building text up text. You don't, you never, I hate. Picking up her phone now, she has to force herself to look at the screen. Nothing. She checks voice name. Nothing. Still, this memory persists. The feeling she had said something she shouldn't have. Never, ever does she let Ash know how much his distance pains her. She has never let him see her anguish, has remained stubbornly proud of this, clinging to impassivity as her only control. Did she let go of all that last night? Vodka and dead girls have a way of loosening that grip. I want to tell her, Ash, I was really wasted last night. I don't remember what I said to you. Ruby sent this message after composing and deleting a dozen others. The text immediately shows as delivered. An hour of conspicuous silence follows when Ruby checks her phone compulsively, as if a reply might slip through unnoticed while she blinks. It is late evening in Melbourne, but definitely not late enough for her text to go unread. Ash would still be expecting work-related messages at this hour. He would have his phone within reach. Panic grows as time ticks on. What did she say in her text last night? How bad did it get? Bad enough for her to delete the evidence after? The photos and words that sent back and forth since she got to New York had been deleted from her phone too. Later she would mourn this loss, but for now she feels sick. As she said something she knew she wouldn't want to see the next day. Ruby holds a pillow tight against her chest, tries to quiet her mind, and for the first time considers whether telling the truth might really be so bad. It must be. How else to explain her nausea, her hollow limbs, her heavy chest? This does not feel like liberation. She sends another message. I'm feeling really awful about everything. Delivered within milliseconds, no response. Ruby lifts the pillow up to her face now, screams into the smooth fabric. A strange muffled sound, more like the memory of screaming than the real thing. It is too early, she knows, or perhaps too late for the half-empty vodka bottle next to the bed. But there is no denying her fingers are already twisted towards the smooth, clear glass. Is this really who she has become? It would be easy enough to say yes, to reach for the bottle, shut down the daylight to these people, and on Officer Jennings' brochures wouldn't blame her for that, surely. Despite their camera-ready smile, they of all people would understand you can't survive every situation on your own, that sometimes you need help to get off the floor. But she isn't the one that needs help, is she? Something she realizes now. She went to the precinct because she wants to be around people for whom Jane is the only thing that matters, to stay focused on that body and to be closer to her too. The way she was just a few days ago, it doesn't feel right to have been there first and to just go about her life from then on as if nothing had happened. She wants to be with Detective O'Brien, sorting through evidence, looking for clues, finding the missing link. This really isn't anything that matters. I could help, she thinks, and then stops herself feeling foolish. Maybe she has gone a little crazy after all, imagining a place for herself at the table like this, imagining she could make a difference to the investigation. Ruby hears Jennings now. The way he said it might be good to talk about what she's experienced down at the river. Messaging Ash is sure as hell not going to make things better, she knows. Cassie, with her gentle scolding and entreaties to come home, entreaties to come home, won't do either. But who does that lead then? Like a whisper in another room, Ruby gets the feeling there is an important conversation going on without her that contains the answer she's looking for. She senses an invitation waiting. If she can only figure out where those whispers are coming from. Unsure what to do with this new concept floating just out of reach, Ruby turns off her phone, puts it in a drawer before lying back on the bed. Eventually she falls into a fitful early morning sleep, dreaming of a young woman with a spade as tall as she is, digging at the earth, singing as she works. And when she wakes from this dream, it is near on midday. Ruby can hear workmen talking and laughing outside her window, hanging off her planks, swinging on their ropes. They are going about their business. The city keeps moving. You need to keep moving too. These words come through more like a shout than a whisper, catapulting Ruby up and out of her bed. She showers and dresses carelessly, ties her wet hair in a knot, and is out the door fast. It is chilly outside, but the April sun is a bright glare in a clear blue sky, and Ruby scolds herself for losing half the day already. Something shifted while she was sleeping. A click and an unlock. She does not want to wake on the bathroom floor or sleep while the sun is out on a Sunday. She does not want to cry in the street, and she does not want to send drunken unanswered messages across the ocean. What Ruby wants is to be useful. It might be foolish to think that Detective O'Brien would have any use for her, but that doesn't mean she can't help in other ways, even if it simply means remembering that every Jane Doe, her Jane Doe, is a real person with a real name that deserves to get back. What to do next then? Who might want to talk with her about dead girls? Who might want to climb down into the darkness with her? The answer, when it comes, seems obvious. There must be other finders of the dead out there. She just needs to work out how to find them. Heading to the nearest coffee shop, carrying her idea carefully as if it might break, Ruby settles on a high school at the window and connects her laptop to the free Wi-Fi. An oversized latte is soon set down in front of her. The comfort of coffee, she thinks, before squeezing her eyes shut, willing inspiration to come. Finding a dead body might be a good place to start. She carefully types these words into the search bar on her laptop, holding her breath as the result appears. This feels like just the beginning of something. That whisper from another room getting louder, but the first few search results are all about something called death cleanups, an apparently burgeoning biohazard industry Ruby has never heard of. These grim advertorials for wiping crime scene clean are followed by list after list of I found a dead body stories. Blog posts decorate words like gruesome and horrifying nightmare. Ruby gives this content a cursory glance only. She's not looking for titillation. Finally, 3/4 down the page, a headline jumps out at her. PTSD, when the body gets stuck in fight or flight mode. So that you don't, get stuck. Wasn't this the language Officer Jennings used outside the precinct? This isn't exactly what she had in mind, but she clicks on the link anyway, letting her breathe out slowly as the article loads. Her coffee is cold by the time she finishes reading. Here, laid out by a well-known doctor from Boston, is the clearest explanation for what trauma does to a person, to their mind and body. The flashbacks, the constant visions of the rain and the river, all the obsessive thoughts whirling around, the way she keeps dreaming about dead girls, not to mention her sudden paranoia, the idea that any man she encounters might be capable of murder. It's all explained by the doctor. This hypervigilance, he says, is a mark of post-traumatic stress disorder, and danger only has to be perceived. He asserts for PTSD to be triggered, encountering a dead body is actually right there on his list. A familiar song about the wonders of New York croons over the cafe speakers. As Ruby ponders this new information, wonders what to do with what feels suddenly like a key in her hand, and then she remembers her earlier plan to seek out other finders of the dead. Perhaps this is where they are hidden. Fingers typing fast this time. Ruby's astounded by the number of results that come up for her now. Pages and pages more. New York is apparently teeming with support groups for people in trauma. Feeling oddly like she is being guided, Ruby clicks on the link for a Manhattan meetup offering support and friendship for people with PTSD, including those with non-traditional causes. Discovering our murder victim, non-traditional. Ruby reads on. The meetup brief describes sessions that include individual sharing, optional and group discussions. We offer a place of non-judgmental where your safety is a priority. No formal diagnosis of PTSD is required to join. The group meets every 2 weeks at a Midtown East location, address to be shared upon RSVP. The registration form is short. Ruby fills it out and hits the send button before she has time to think better of it. Almost immediately an email dings through with a generic welcome. Note that someone named Larry. Congratulations. No, it takes courage to make the first step in your healing process. You should be proud of yourself. Attach the welcome email as a list of dates, location, and times for the group's spring sessions. The next meeting is set for Thursday, 4 days from now. Ruby barely even asked her big sister for advice. Has never considered seeing a therapist. Is she really going to do this? Over the speakers, a man is still crooning about New York as he sings about brand new starts. The lyric sounds out across the cafe. Nan's right next to her, and the hair on Ruby's arms bristle. This is suddenly no question. She will go to this meetup. She will seek out people who understand what is the worst that could happen. If she goes the wrong way, she'll find what she's looking for eventually, because you can find anything in New York, right? Even a dead body, she thinks. Alarmed to discover that for once, the stalkers of truth almost makes her laugh. When I started showing up in her dreams, as it was an accident, by the way. This isn't exactly a difference between awake and asleep for me these days. She's the one who changes when her eyes are closed. She's the one who becomes more open. Remember me standing next to her in Riverside Park and understanding that I followed her home. These are things I forget. These are things she forgets in the daylight, and I didn't know there was a way I could remind her of them until it happened. I try not to hold too tight when she does remember. I really am sorry for all the things she had to carry. That's why I push for her to seek help back there in the cafe. That's why I place my fingers over hers, press down on the keys. Well, truth is I can't touch anything, not really. But it makes me feel better to imagine that it didn't, or just disappeared because someone else wanted it to. That I'm still here, even if no one can see me yet. Even if nobody knows my name yet. Small things have started happening, see, important things. At first they seem like little accidents, but now, if I concentrate hard enough, it seems I can drop the beginning of a thought into Ruby's head, cause her mind to ripple. It happened with a PTSD article. Just a small nudge, but she felt it, followed it. Noel told me all that trauma, explained it almost as well as the Boston doctor. Back when we were talking about shaking memories loose, and I imagined a body full of holes, he told me there's a chance we inherit trauma, that bad memories can get passed down from one generation to another. And I thought about my mother at the time, all the things I never knew about her, but now I wonder if I've somehow passed my memories on to Ruby, accidentally pressed them into her bones, the way Noah made it sound. But that's enough talk about Noah, my crow, my deathbird. I don't want to think about him, don't need to. Now that I've got Ruby, I should have paid more attention to the things he told me, yes, but that won't do me any good these days. Besides, what can I do? Remember him. Besides, when I do remember him clearly, I feel a pain as sharp, as awful as anything I ever experienced when I was alive. And what's the point of being dead if they can still hurt you from the other side? It's as if they've forgotten me, the others, him. The problem is, I don't fully understand how I managed to push through. Sometimes I understand even less about why. Most of the time it's like I'm a silverfish darting through a wave, a shadow too quick to catch. But there are times when I see them up close. Noah shutting the door to my bedroom. Tammy checking her phone. Mr. Jackson hiding a box of photographs in his closet. In the space where Leisha used to be. But the waves get too big. They toss me around, batter me against something hard and unyielding, and the water rushes in. Is it them or me turning upside down when this happened? All I know for sure is that Ruby is my only calm sea. When the others make me feel as if I'm dying all over again, or worse, as if I never existed at all. We are getting close, the quote says. In the accompanying black and white picture, O'Brien stares out, looking stern and short, looking like the kind of man who is used to being listened to. Consider yourself warned, the quote goes on. You will be found. We are learning more about you every day. It's only a matter of time. O'Brien is bluffing. I want to say, as Ruby reads the official statement over and over, her heart thumping. He's trying to lure him out from wherever he's hiding, trick him into coming forward. They don't really know anything about him at all. I have tried to get close to him, but the man who murdered me only has to think about what he did that morning for those wild waves to start up again, throwing me under the roiling water. It feels like its own kind of warning every time I come near. That while he's out there going about his life like nothing has changed, he has the power to destroy me, to take away what little life I have left. Is that how it happens after the kill? They keep living their lives, keep getting up for work and eating breakfast and checking their weather and saying please and thank you and you're welcome, and they smile at their own reflection in the mirror and store windows as they walk down the street hiding in plain sight. If they bother to hide at all, think no one has the power to stop them, not the girl then or anyone now. It's only a matter of time before they find him, or before he gets a chance to do it again.